I'm going to be talking about a modern classical album today, which means I have to probably clarify up front that I'm not at all up on modern classical, or really classical in general. I have no doubt that I'm denying myself a bunch of amazing music for no reason. It's just a vast and intimidating world that I've yet to work up the time or energy or proper mindset to dive into. And most of what I have heard has been in the form of modern classical, and I have my favorites. I love Dolman music by Meredith Monk, and music for 18 musicians. That one's kind of obligatory. I've really enjoyed some Caroline Shaw and some Moondog. Oh, he's kind of in a different category, I guess. But the bulk of the interest I do have in modern classical stems from a collection of recordings by Wim Mertens called Maximizing the Audience. I'm not the best person to ask about Wim Mertens' work more generally, but all 5 of the pieces on this album, especially taken as a continuous whole, grabbed me on my first listen in a way that music almost never does, and repeated listens have only made it clear to me that this is some of the most creatively stimulating and viscerally enjoyable music I've probably ever heard. Its overall aesthetic has always felt incredibly positive to me. It's full of caring sunshine and refreshing rain and a beautiful touch of humanity. It's not the most exploratory music out there, but it also never feels academic. It can be alienating, and it's certainly not for everyone, but it never feels intentionally abrasive or elitist. There's just no other way that these songs could exist. Honestly, every song follows incredibly simple concepts and rules that aren't that hard to understand or digest. Circles, the opening track, is an instrument at a time glacially slow build that doesn't actually seem to go anywhere, but it makes for hypnotic background listening, and intent listening it's almost dissociative. My brain just jumps out of itself for a while. In a good way, I think. Lehrer, or Blur, maybe, is a lengthy piece for solo piano that loops around several beautiful melodic ideas, never building so much as just winding, lingering, and elaborating. It may irritate some people who don't like that kind of composition, but I adore it, with many of the snippets and themes sticking with me after it ends. But even better is the centerpiece of the album, the title track, which is basically just an extended, elevated pop song, with genuinely catchy repeating melodies, moments of hard-hitting euphoria, and an uplifting quality that feels equal parts alien and relatable. Honestly, I count it among my favorite songs of all time. The Fosse, or Fosse, or something, is less of a piece and more of an interlude, using some melodies from Lehrer as a familiar breather before the lengthy finale of Whisper Me, which doesn't even try to hide its lack of any real musical development. It's essentially chamber ambient music, feeling warm, meditative, ghostly, maybe? It doesn't feel entirely there. Or maybe it is firmly existing, but you aren't. You can feel its presence, but it can barely feel yours. Any music that provokes that kind of warbling from me it's probably good. Like I said, Maximizing the Audience, ironically given its title, is both a little too minimal and repetitive for less accustomed classical listeners, and probably a bit too conceptually simple and compositionally straightforward for a seasoned veteran looking for something completely novel and boundary-pushing. But at the moment, however long it lasts that I exist between those two camps, I'm going to continue enjoying it. It appeals to the repetition-loving parts of my neurodiverse brain. It's got a distinct character and humanity that I hope to find more examples of in classical music, and despite the sparseness of its notes and its melodies, they all hit me in ways that are viscerally enjoyable, memorable, and evocative. At this point in my almost non-existent classical journey, that's pretty much all of what I'm looking for. I don't have a joke this time. It's just it's a good album. It's a good album. Wim Mertens, Maximizing the Audience. Forever.